Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of the vlog. I am featuring my record collection once again today. Today I'm going to talk about Elvis. Over the years I've just kind of accumulated a lot of Elvis albums. It was never really a conscious decision that I'm going to collect for Elvis. It's just, Elvis records are very easy to find. Almost every record store I've ever gone to has like 3 just bins of them. And that's pretty much because Elvis, and more so Colonel Tom Parker, and RCA Victor Records as well, just loved putting out as many Elvis albums as they could. Probably for every year of Elvis's career, if you put all the studio albums, live albums, and all manner of compilations together, there are probably 5 or 6 albums per year at least of Elvis content. And so it's all easy to find because they made so much of it. So I've accumulated quite the stack that I'm going to go through today. Not a complete collection by any means. A complete collection would take up like half of this rack behind me. But I have a lot of cool stuff. I'm going to get started. Most of these are Canadian pressings, as I am Canadian. I'm going to start with this. Speaking of Canadian pressings, The Heartbreak Hotel. I was the one single that put Elvis on the map. His first single for RCA Victor. In the United States, it was on a standard black sort of nipper label. But in Canada, the original early pressings were on this blue label. So if you have a Canadian version of this single on the nipper black label, it's probably a reissue. Then I also have perhaps the most famous rock single of all time, the double A side rather, of Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel. This one has seen better days. This is a reissue as well. I also have something I didn't really know existed until I found it in a record store. The EP for Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel. On side 1 you got Don't Be Cruel and also I Want You, I Need You, I Love You. And on the other side you got Hound Dog and the B-side to I Want You, I Need You, I Love You, My Baby Left Me. Very cool. I didn't know they put out an EP for that, but this is an early Canadian pressing of that one. Then, later on in 1956, we have Elvis's second album, simply called Elvis. This is a reissue, a Canadian reissue from something like 1960 or so. So still an early mono pressing, but I do believe the original Canadian pressing would have been on a blue label like the Heartbreak Hotel that I showed you. This one is on your standard black nipper label, but at least it's not electronically reprocessed stereo, aka duophonic stereo, although I do have some of that in my collection as well, unfortunately. Oh yeah, so Elvis's first movie, Elvis of course made so many movies. His first movie from 1956 was Love Me Tender, and they didn't release a soundtrack album to my knowledge from that, but they did release a soundtrack EP, and here it is. The soundtrack EP, 5 songs from Elvis's first movie, Love Me Tender. And then, he made another movie, a little movie called Jailhouse Rock. And he put out an EP for the soundtrack to that as well. And I've got that too. This one's actually got 5 songs on it. There's 3 songs on the second side of this 45 RPM single. They are fairly sort of compressed sounding though. When you squeeze a lot of music onto a small space, you tend to get a little bit of dynamic loss mostly. There is definitely a bit of that on there. Back to the albums. This album is completely destroyed. I just bought it for found it in the bottom of a albums for a quarter bin. So I'm like, if it plays at all, fine. If it doesn't, which I don't expect it to, whatever. Hang it on a wall someday or something. This is Elvis's Christmas album from 1957. I also thought it was cool because it's on this early RCA Victor Canadian label. So it's a very early pressing of this album, and it is completely falling apart. And it's a Christmas album anyway. I don't really usually listen to those that often. From 1958, one of his best-selling albums of all time. It's a compilation. It's the first in the Elvis's Golden Records series. This is what I was talking about, though. It's an electronically reprocessed stereo. AKA fake stereo, AKA not real stereo, AKA garbage. I don't know. I can't. I've done 278 vlogs now. I'm just trying to think in my head. I actually can't remember if I've made a video on electronically reprocessed stereo, If I haven't, I should. It's an annoying thing that record labels used to do to try to sell stereo albums and turntables, is take perfectly good mono recordings, add a whole lot of delay and weird shit to them, and make reprocessed, i.e. fake stereo albums out of it. And I hate them. But I got this as a 70s reissue on the fake stereo. And then I found this, and I was super excited to find this because not only was it mono, as it should be, but it is collector's gold vinyl edition. They made these in 1978, shortly after Elvis died, to sort of capitalize on the marketplace. And man, it looks really cool. I don't have a lot of colored vinyl in my collection, and I was super excited. So excited, in fact, that I didn't pay enough attention to the fact that it's warped beyond playability. Again, might be something cool I can hang up on a wall someday, but playable it is not. Okay, then the sequel to that album, 50 Million Elvis Fans Can't Be Wrong, aka Elvis's Golden Records Volume 2, but yet again, this is an electronically reprocessed stereo copy. This one comes from, I believe, the mid to late 60s. It's still on the Nipper label there, which means it's from 1968 or earlier. Next, another Elvis movie. This one comes from, I believe, 1959? Somewhere between 59 and 61. I'm blanking on exactly when this came out. But G.I. Blues. Here's a soundtrack album for that. I don't collect a lot of the soundtracks from his movies. His movies are not my favorite part of his career. In fact, they're not really anybody's favorite part of Elvis's career. His early movies, I don't think I've ever seen an Elvis movie, but at least the music from his early movies was not bad, was pretty good, and then it slowly declined, and by the time about 1968 came around, his career was really suffering, but then he had a resurgence, and we'll get to all that. Here's another movie soundtrack from 1961, Blue Hawaii. This is probably, it's probably his third most famous movie soundtrack behind Jailhouse Rock and Love Me Tender, because this one's got two enormous hits on it. It's got Blue Hawaii, and it's also got Can't Help Falling in Love. Timeless songs. Elvis in the 70s used to end all his concerts with I Can't Help Falling in Love. From 1960, I guess I skipped this. This is a later issuing of the It's Now or Never single. Always liked that song, of course, coming from O Sole Mio with new lyrics, B-side A Mess of Blues. I also have, skipped this one too, Marie's the Name of His Latest Flame. Oh, and I guess that's the B-side to Little Sister. Both really good songs, both really fun, up-tempo rock songs. Hey, little sister, don't you do what your big sister does. One of the best-selling singles of all time. Are you lonesome tonight? Elvis had a lot of those. Elvis had a lot of the best-selling singles of all time, and even the B-side is pretty well known. I gotta know, gotta know, gotta know, gotta know. I'm gonna stop singing. I'm not doing these songs justice. And then also from Blue Hawaii, which I just showed you, I have the single for Can't Help Falling in Love, with also from the soundtrack Rockahula Baby on the B-side there. Next, from 1963, the third album of the Elvis's Golden Record series, Volume 3. At least this one's in mono. It's a mono copy. Hooray! Yep, just a collection of, I believe it's 12 songs from the sort of midsection of his career, the middle part. Midsection's not what I meant to say. The middle part of his career with, the big hits of the time between 59 and 63. So, like It's Now or Never, Stuck on You, Surrender, like that song, and many more. Yes, like I said, by 1968, his movie career was sort of suffering. He was releasing songs like Do the Clam. This is Do the Clam from the MGM film Girl Happy. B-side here is You'll Be Gone. Elvis's later movie career, oh my god, they were getting stupider and stupider, the songs they were choosing for him to sing. But I guess that's what happens if you sing thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of songs in your career. Not all of them are going to be amazing. And then I've also got this later Elvis single. I can't remember what year this is from, but it's Fools Fall in Love with Indescribably Blue. I'm not even sure which one of those is the A-side, frankly. Anyway, in 1968, Elvis needed to do something. and he and Colonel Tom Parker knew that. They were scheduled to do a Christmas special for NBC, but I think I can't remember if Elvis really wanted to do this or if it was NBC's idea, but they sort of changed it up to have Elvis playing some live acoustic tunes and medleys of his classic songs. And he, for the new songs that he hadn't recorded before, he chose all the songs himself, which was not usually the case. It was usually a team of like record executives and movie people that were choosing Elvis's repertoire, and starting with this, the 1968 NBC TV special, Elvis started to choose the material he would use. This TV special was just called Elvis, but it has come to be known as the Comeback Special. It's great. Gotta love it. Then I also have, from his early days of his Vegas performing career, from the International Hotel on stage from February of 1970. I'm not sure if any of you guys agree with me. Let me know, but I actually really, really like Elvis's 70s live albums. I know it's considered, the Fat Elvis period, but I love him. I don't know why. You get mixes of some medleys of his classic 50s and 60s tunes, and then he would cover some hit songs of the day, like this album has a cover of Sweet Caroline on it, and Polk Salad Annie, which he did a whole lot. Let It Be Me, The Wonder of You, and he had a very strong voice, particularly in the early part of the 1970s. Next I have a box set, which I was really happy to get a hold of. This is Elvis's Worldwide Gold Award Hits Volume 1. 50 songs on, I believe it is 4 LPs, from his whole career up to that point, from 1956 with Heartbreak Hotel all the way to Kentucky Rain, which came out in January of 1970. Oh, and it also has like excerpts from Elvis Sales, which was a weird EP with no music, I don't think. It's a weird EP from 1959 that I don't have, but I can listen to it because excerpts from it are on this box set. I believe that it's like a collection of news interviews and stuff from when he was leaving to join the military. Not quite sure. These are in mono, and that's another reason I was really happy to get this box set, because a lot of these songs I only had on those Golden Records albums that were on the fake stereo, but for some reason, even though this is in mono and it's all the original mixes and stuff, there's something about the sound of this box set. Maybe it's just my copy. Maybe someone was playing my copy on some cheapo turntable back in the day, but I've never been super thrilled with the way that one sounds. I'm so professional, taking a water break in the middle of my video. Can't you wait? Anyway, it's just me yelling at myself. Then, from, I believe, 1972 or so, this is Elvis's Almost in Love. Songs from the late 60s and early 70s. Studio tracks that were issued on this compilation album. The thing about these songs is they had all been issued as like single B-sides or whatever, and they'd never gotten in a release on an LP up to this point. Which means these songs are not his best work. They were just kind of an excuse for RCA Victor, I think in this case RCA Camden, yes, which was their budget line label. Just an excuse for them to push out one more album. But I got this album because it has a song that became a hit in the late 90s, well after Elvis had passed away, and that's A Little Less Conversation. I can't remember who did the remix of that song, but it's very catchy. You all heard it back in the 90s. I told you I wouldn't sing anymore, but it's the A Little Less Conversation, a little more action. It's very catchy. Can't get enough of it. Anyway, back to the 70s live albums. This is Elvis at Madison Square Garden from 1972. Same as the last album, it's him playing, medleys of his old songs and some of the hits of the day. Such songs as, this one's got Funny How Time Slips Away, the Willie Nelson song. It's got You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin', You Don't Have to Say You Love Me. It's got Proud Mary on it and covering some CCR. It's weird to hear stuff like that, like Elvis covering CCR, but he did it. Here's another Elvis live album, my favorite Elvis live album, the Aloha from Hawaii, live via satellite, recorded in January of 1973 at that famous satellite broadcast concert that got millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of viewers. This is a double live album. It always bothered me that they never put the track listing on the cover, but this album was the first Elvis 70s live album I got. I was pretty young when I bought this album, and I remember being like, it's only a few bucks. I don't know if I care about an Elvis album. And it was actually listening to this album that made me like, wow. Even in the later part of his career, Elvis was a way more talented singer than I even gave him credit for. Next, this is the stupidest album that was ever issued, not really by Elvis, but under Elvis's name. I've covered this in a previous video I made. I once made a video that I'll link to in the description of the 5 coolest and 5 lamest albums in my collection. This was one of the 5 lamest ones, but I had to buy it because I knew this is like historically lame. It's having fun with Elvis on stage. This album contains no music, as it says right here. It is a talking album only, issued in 1974 because Colonel Tom Parker wanted more money. I love this story. I told it once in the vlog before, but I'll tell it again. RCA Victor, obviously, would take a percentage of the cut of any of Elvis's albums because they owned the rights to the publishing. Or a chunk of the rights to the publishing, at least. And Colonel Tom Parker was annoyed with that, and he was trying and scheming to come up with a way to release an album that he would be able to make full profits on without giving any back to RCA. And RCA said, no, any album with Elvis's music on it, we own a chunk of, so as long as you're releasing albums of Elvis music, you're going to have to pay us out, our fee. So he devised a brilliant plan. I'm going to release an Elvis album without any Elvis music, and that's what he did. This is just Elvis talking between songs on stage. I don't mean telling interesting stories, anecdotes, jokes, although there's some of that. It's mostly just disjointed. Like, they just took audio from a bunch of his concerts from the early 70s, and they just included the gaps between songs where he would talk into the mic. It makes no sense. I've never been able to listen to the whole thing. It's so stupid and so terrible that I'm thrilled that I own it, just so I can tell the story to you guys of how terrible it is. Guess what? Another Elvis live album. I just love them. From Elvis Presley Boulevard, Memphis, Tennessee. What am I talking about? This isn't a live album. This isn't a live album at all. Excuse me. This album came out in late 1976, or at least was recorded in late 1976. It's a studio album that they kind of made to look like it was a live album. He did record it in Memphis, and just a collection of 10 songs recorded very late in Elvis's career. Speaking of very late in Elvis's career, here's the last album that was released during his lifetime. This is Moody Blue. This came out in July of 1977. I do not have the colored vinyl blue version. This is on black vinyl. I've heard conflicting reports on which one is more valuable. Some people say that the blue vinyl is more valuable because it's just cool. It's blue vinyl, and Moody Blue, it's his last album. Some say the black vinyl is better because they reissued it on blue vinyl after Elvis died to sort of capitalize on that because, Colonel Tom wasn't done making money. But yeah, because they reissued it on blue vinyl, the first pressing is the one that's black, and so that's the one that's worth the most money. In reality, I believe it goes back and forth, and it really just depends on your copy. And I don't think either is particularly rare or sought after. There are a lot of copies of Moody Blue out there. And then, while that is the end of the Elvis albums released during his lifetime, this album, by the way, has a few studio recordings and also a few live recordings from the tail end of his career in April of 1977. But this one's even later. This is Elvis in concert. This was recorded at 2 concerts in June of 1977 when Elvis was not well. He was very out of it, and you can kind of tell. This is the famous recording, which you can find on YouTube and video as well, as this was the soundtrack to the Elvis in Concert TV special. The concerts were filmed. But if you watch the video of, I believe it's Are You Lonesome Tonight, Elvis just completely loses where he is in the middle of the song and just basically starts mumbling incoherently. It's very sad. He was dead just under 2 months later. I can't believe they put out this album. Actually, I can. Excuse me. I can believe that they put out this album because he had just died a few weeks earlier, and this album sold incredibly well because people wanted to have a record of his some of his last performances. But what boggles my mind is that it was recorded for use in a TV special, and it was still scheduled to be released in October before Elvis had died. I can't believe that they actually listened to these recordings and thought, these are fine, let's release it, because Elvis was clearly sick. He was getting terrible concert reviews even then. But yeah, they were still going to go through with the special, and then he died, and then they really needed to go through with the special for sure. I'm glad I have it as a record of what Elvis sounded like in his final days, but it's certainly far from his best live album. And that does it for my Elvis collection. Like I said, slowly over the years, I've just kind of accumulated a lot of it, and I'm glad I got the chance to show it to you. Thanks so much for watching. For those of you who don't know, I'm also a professional musician myself. You can check out the description for a list of all my upcoming concert dates. I don't have that many of them. This is COVID-19 time right now that I'm filming this. But I am doing certain outdoor distanced busking events and farmers markets and the like. And also I'm in a KISS tribute band. I know a lot of people who do tribute acts do Elvis. There's a lot of Elvis impersonators. I suppose I'm a Paul Stanley impersonator, so I joined Alive and Kissed, and we got a virtual gig coming up in September. Check out the description for all that. Links to where you can get tickets to that. Also in the description are links to where you can find my original music where it's sold or streamed online. Thanks for watching. Like this video if you liked what you saw. Subscribe to this channel if you've been enjoying my videos. And you can ring the notification bell if you'd like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, which will be in the next couple days. And most days for the foreseeable future. Frankly, this is the episode, as you can tell, it's episode 278. I do a lot of these. I hope you enjoy them. Thanks so much for watching. And back again real soon.